Right at this very moment, while you are watching this video, staff inside Buckingham Palace are rehearsing for a death. That is not speculation, that is not a rumor, that is a confirmed fact. Inside the walls of the most famous palace on earth, military officials, senior advisors, and royal staff are running through detailed rehearsals for the death of King Charles III. The operation has a name. It is called Operation Menai Bridge, and it has leaked. This is the most secret contingency plan in the British establishment, and the details are now spilling out into the open. What happens the minute King Charles dies? Who gets the phone call first? How does Prince William become King William V in a matter of minutes? What happens to Queen Camilla? Does Prince Harry come back? Does Prince Andrew get anywhere near the throne? And the biggest question of all, is the British monarchy itself about to collapse under the weight of these crises? Because let me tell you something, what we are witnessing right now in August 2026 is unlike anything the royal family has faced since the abdication crisis of 1936. The king is battling cancer, his brother has been arrested, his youngest son is in exile, and the heir to the throne is already preparing to take over. So buckle up. This is the full leaked breakdown of what happens when King Charles dies, and it is far more shocking than anyone expected. Let us start with the codename itself, Operation Menai Bridge. It is named after a suspension bridge in Wales, and that is no accident. King Charles held the title of Prince of Wales for more than 50 years. It was the longest anyone has ever held that title in British history. So when the palace chose a codename for his death, they picked something deeply personal to him. But here's what makes this terrifying. These are not just theoretical plans sitting in a drawer somewhere. These are active, living protocols that are being rehearsed right now as we speak. Royal Protection Officer Simon Morgan, who has worked inside the palace for years, confirmed that staff have begun rehearsing preparations for the king's death. He said, and I quote, "These are rehearsals no one wants to do, but everyone has to be ready. Every detail is planned, from who calls whom to how flags are lowered." Think about that for a second. While the king is still alive and attending events, his own staff are practicing for his funeral. That is the level of concern we are dealing with. And it gets worse. The planning did not start recently. It started the day after Queen Elizabeth's funeral. On September 20th, 2022, the very next day after the world watched the longest reigning British monarch being laid to rest, the palace began upgrading the king's funeral arrangements. They took the framework from Operation London Bridge, which was the code name for the Queen's death, and they adapted it for Charles. So this plan has been in development for nearly 4 years. It is meticulous. It is military-grade precise. And now it is leaking. Here's how the protocol works. The moment King Charles dies, that day is designated as D-Day. Not the Second World War D-Day, but Death Day. From that moment, a 10-day countdown begins. D+1, D+2, all the way to D+10, which is the date of the full state funeral at Westminster Abbey. If D+10 falls on a Sunday, it gets pushed to D+11, because state funerals do not happen on Sundays. During those 10 days, the United Kingdom enters a period of official state mourning. Flags across the country drop to half-mast. Television schedules change. Parliament is suspended, and the body of the king lies in state at the Palace of Westminster, where the public can file past the coffin to pay their final respects. We saw this with the Queen. Remember the images of that 5-mile queue of people waiting for hours in the cold just to walk past her coffin? That will happen again. But this time, the context is completely different, because this time, the monarchy is not stable. This time, there is a cancer-stricken king, an arrested prince, an exiled prince, and a public that is increasingly questioning whether any of this should still exist. Now let us talk about the health of the man at the center of all this, because the palace wants you to believe that King Charles is doing fine. They want you to think that his cancer treatment has been reduced, that he is back to full duties, that everything is under control. But the reality is very different. Veteran royal reporter Robert Jobson, who has covered the royal family for decades, has seen the king up close at events, and he describes a man who is struggling badly. Jobson said he has watched Charles at events not far from him, where he is almost falling asleep while standing up. He also said that the palace has been overemphasizing the good news. The truth, according to Jobson, is that the king is living with cancer. He will live with cancer, and that is a very different message from the one the palace is putting out. As of August 2026, King Charles is 77 years old. His treatment was reduced in December 2025, which the palace spun as a positive sign. But reduced treatment does not mean cured, it means managed. And in May of this year, during a visit to York Hospital, Charles met a cancer patient, and the interaction was deeply revealing. The patient later described how the king looked into his eyes and immediately connected with him on a human level, because they were both going through the same thing. Both of them had cancer. That is not the behavior of a man who has beaten the disease. That is the behavior of a man who knows exactly what he is up against. Queen Camilla has reportedly been urging her husband to rest. She has been telling him to slow down, to take time off, to prioritize his health over his duties. But Charles is not listening. He is pushing himself to attend events, to travel, to maintain the image of a functioning monarch. And that is exactly why the palace is running these rehearsals. They know something the public is only starting to suspect. They know that the king's health is deteriorating. Radar Online, citing palace sources, reported that Charles really is not doing well. And while Prince William would be devastated if his father takes a turn for the worse, William is also pragmatic. He is not sitting around hoping for the best. He is preparing. He is focusing on the stability of the monarchy. And that brings us to the most explosive part of this entire story. What William plans to do the second he becomes king. The minute King Charles III dies, Prince William becomes King William V. There is no gap. There is no waiting period. There is no ceremony, no waiting period. There is no ceremony that has to happen first. The instant his father takes his last breath, William is the king of the United Kingdom. His full name is William Arthur Philip Lewis, and while there was some speculation that he might choose a different regnal name, the consensus now is that he will reign as William V, and at his side, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, will become Queen Consort. Not queen in her own right, but Queen Consort, just as Camilla is now, and just as the Queen Mother was before her. But the transition is not just about titles. It is about a rapid military precision communication cascade that happens in the first 10 minutes. Here is exactly how it works. The King's private secretary is the first person to make the call. That call goes to the British Prime Minister, currently Keir Starmer. Then the Privy Council office is notified. Then begins what is known as the call cascade. Cabinet secretaries, government ministers, senior civil servants, the leaders of the devolved governments in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland all get the news in a carefully choreographed sequence. Within 10 minutes of the announcement, flags at Whitehall and across the country are lowered to half-mast. The BBC switches to its official morning protocol, and a notice is pinned to the gates of Buckingham Palace, just as it was when the Queen died. The entire process is designed to take approximately 10 minutes from the moment of death to the moment the nation knows. Now here is something that catches a lot of people off guard. William will be king instantly, but his coronation will not happen for months. King Charles III's coronation took place 8 months after Queen Elizabeth died. William will follow a similar timeline. There is a practical reason for this. A state funeral and a coronation are enormous logistical operations, and you cannot stack them on top of each other. The country needs time to mourn the old monarch before it can celebrate the new one. So, for several months, William will be the reigning king without having been crowned. He will carry out all royal duties, sign all legislation, and meet with the Prime Minister as the head of state, but the actual crowning at Westminster Abbey will come later. But what makes this truly fascinating is what William plans to do with his power once he has it. Because William is not Charles. He does not have the same patience for family drama. He does not have the same sentimental attachment to keeping everyone inside the tent. According to multiple royal sources, William has a very clear vision for his reign, and that vision involves cutting dead weight immediately. Let us start with Prince Andrew. William believes, and I am quoting sources close to him here, that Andrew should have been removed from the line of succession immediately and cut out of royal life completely. This is not a new opinion. William has reportedly been furious for years that his uncle still holds a place in the succession line, despite the Epstein scandal, the civil lawsuit, the settlement, and now the arrest in February 2026 for sharing confidential government documents with Jeffrey Epstein. In William's mind, Andrew is a disgrace to the institution, and the moment William has the authority to do so, Andrew will be permanently erased from any official role in the monarchy. Whether that means a formal removal from the line of succession or simply a complete freeze-out from all royal activities, the message will be unmistakable. Andrew is done. Then there is Prince Harry. While King Charles has shown some openness to mending his relationship with his youngest son, William wants no part of it. Sources say that is likely never going to change. William views Harry's departure from royal life, his memoir, his Netflix documentary, and his public attacks on the family as unforgivable breaches of trust. The idea that Harry might return to a senior royal role under William's reign is, according to insiders, absolutely not happening. William is prepared to let Harry live his life in California, but as far as the monarchy is concerned, Harry is out. Finished. There will be no reconciliation, no olive branch, no place at the table. This fits into William's broader plan for what people are calling a slimmed-down monarchy. The current royal family is already stretched thin. Princess Anne is in her 70s. The Duke of Kent and Prince Michael of Kent are in their 80s. There is no next generation of working royals waiting in the wings except William's own children. So William's plan is to reduce the monarchy to its core. Himself, Catherine, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. That is it. 5 people carrying the entire institution. One royal commentator put it bluntly, there is no institution without them. William and Catherine carry the whole thing. But the succession plan has one massive, terrifying flaw that almost nobody is talking about, and it involves the one scenario that could throw the entire United Kingdom into constitutional chaos. What happens if both King Charles and Prince William die at the same time? Or what happens if William becomes incapacitated before his son comes of age? Because here is the shocking truth. Under the 1937 Regency Act, if both Charles and William are gone, the throne passes to Prince George, who is currently 13 years old. But a 13-year-old cannot rule, so a regent must be appointed to act on his behalf until he turns 18. And according to the current law, that regent would be Prince Harry. Yes, the same Prince Harry who lives in California, who has spent years attacking the monarchy, who William wants nothing to do with. He would legally become the most powerful person in Britain, and it gets even worse. The law states that a regent must be domiciled in some part of the United Kingdom. Harry lives in Montecito, California. If he is disqualified on the basis of residency, the next person in the line of succession over the age of 18 is Prince Andrew. Let that sink in. The 2 people who could end up running Britain on behalf of a child king are the 2 most controversial, most disgraced wealthiest members of the royal family. This is not a theoretical problem. This is a live constitutional crisis waiting to happen, and Parliament knows it. In the House of Lords, a direct question was put to the government. Are you happy to continue with a situation where the councils of state and regency powers may be exercised by the Duke of York or the Duke of Sussex? The government gave a carefully worded response, saying they would always consider what arrangements are needed to ensure resilience in our constitutional arrangements. That is, politicians speak because we are terrified and we do not know what to do. There is, however, one person who could fix this constitutional nightmare before it ever becomes reality, and that person is King Charles himself. The monarch retains the authority to make changes to the Regency Act, and there is mounting pressure behind the scenes for him to do exactly that. The most practical solution being discussed is not to formally remove Harry and Andrew from the line of succession, which would open a political can of worms, but rather to expand the pool of eligible regents to include senior royal adults who are actually capable and trusted. At the top of that list is Catherine, the Princess of Wales. If Kate were added as an eligible regent, she would almost certainly become the regent for her own son, Prince George, which makes intuitive sense on every level. She lives in the United Kingdom, she is deeply involved in her children's upbringing, she is wildly popular with the British public, and she is already carrying an enormous share of the monarchy's workload. But whether Charles has the political will to make this change, or whether he avoids it to prevent further family drama, remains an open question, and that uncertainty is exactly what keeps constitutional lawyers awake at night. Now we need to talk about what happens to Queen Camilla, because her fate is one of the most dramatic and least discussed aspects of this transition. The moment King Charles dies, Camilla ceases to be queen. That title is attached to her husband, and when he is gone, it is gone. She will instead become Queen Dowager, the formal title given to the widow of a deceased king. She will be expected to vacate Buckingham Palace almost immediately. The new king and queen consort will need the primary royal residence, and tradition is absolutely clear. The widow steps aside. The most likely scenario is that Camilla will follow the exact path taken by the Queen Mother in 1952. After King George VI died, the Queen Mother moved out of Buckingham Palace and into Clarence House, a smaller but still prestigious London residence. It will be a dignified retirement, but let us be honest about what it represents. From the most famous address on earth to a secondary residence, from constant presence at state banquets to a background figure who appears only occasionally. And given everything Camilla has been through, the decades of being vilified during the Diana years, the slow rehabilitation of her image, the fight to be accepted as queen consort, this final transition will be emotionally devastating. She will go from being the wife of the king to being the mother of the king, which sounds similar but is a completely different universe in terms of power and relevance. When it comes to the funeral itself, the plans are already locked in with military precision. Charles will lie in state in the Palace of Westminster, where the public will file past his coffin around the clock. Based on what we saw with Queen Elizabeth, we can expect queues stretching for miles, with people waiting 12, 14, even 24 hours just for a few seconds before the coffin of their king. His final resting place will be the royal vault in the King George VI Memorial Chapel at Windsor Castle, the same sacred ground where Queen Elizabeth was laid to rest. The state funeral will be held at Westminster Abbey, and the date will automatically be declared a public bank holiday. The entire machinery of British life will grind to a halt. Shops will close, football matches will be postponed, television networks will suspend regular programming, and billions around the world will watch as Britain buries its king. Then, after the mourning period has passed, William will be crowned at Westminster Abbey in a coronation carefully designed to look both timeless and modern. He will want to honor the thousand-year traditions, but he will be acutely aware that he is being watched by a generation that questions whether he deserves to be there at all. And that is perhaps the greatest challenge William faces. It is not the logistics of the funeral. It is not the constitutional crisis of the Regency. It is the slow erosion of public belief in the very idea of monarchy. Polls consistently show that younger Britons view William as cold, distant, and the ultimate beneficiary of inherited privilege. They call him a nepo baby. They ask why, in a modern democracy, any family should hold power by accident of birth. They look at the arrest of Prince Andrew, the exile of Prince Harry, the health collapse of King Charles, and they see not a sacred institution, but a dysfunctional family clinging to privilege. William's response is to strip the monarchy down to its absolute essentials. 5 people. No scandal-ridden uncles. No exiled brothers firing shots from California. Just a tight, professional unit focused on duty and public service. It is a rational plan, and it might be the only one that could work. But whether it is enough to save an institution that has survived for over a millennium, at a moment when Republican sentiment is rising and the family is fracturing from within, is the defining question of our time. Because what we are really witnessing is not just the preparation for one man's death. We are watching a stress test for the entire concept of hereditary rule in the 21st century. An institution that survived civil wars, revolutions, abdications, and world wars is now being tested by cancer, by criminal arrest, by exile, and by a public that is slowly running out of patience. The rehearsals are happening behind closed doors. The secret plans have leaked. The successor is ready and waiting. But ready for what? To lead a proud tradition into its next chapter, or to preside over its final days? Only time will tell. But one thing is absolutely certain. When that phone rings, when Operation Menai Bridge is activated, when the flags drop and the nation holds its breath, Britain will change forever, and the world will be watching. So I want to hear from you. Do you believe the British monarchy survives the next 10 years, or are we watching the beginning of the end? Let me know in the comments below. If you want more deep dives into the stories mainstream media is too careful to cover, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I will be back with another video very soon.